Hey there, and welcome to the She Calls Her Shots podcast. Every week, we chat through different business building topics that will help you gain clarity around your goals, find inspiration in your journey, and also help you create a life and a business that you love. My name is Krista, and I'm a wedding and brand photographer and your go-to no-fluff business coach. In these episodes, we talk through both the tactical strategies, habits, and the mindset work that will help you take those really big leaps. And we always focus on the real talk and the behind the scenes of what it takes to create a sustainable and a thriving business. Because let's be honest, the work isn't always glamorous, but it's always worth it. So girlfriend, let's make some moves and start calling our own shots. Hello, friend, and welcome back to this episode of the She Calls Her Shots podcast. I am here at my desk with my cup of tea and my candle. It's my favorite place to record episodes from, even though I'm in here mostly by myself. I'm here with my two dogs who are sleeping on a couch right beside me. But I like to think that you and I were like at a coffee shop. I actually have, you can't see it obviously, but I've been really obsessed with this like YouTube channel. It's called Calmed by Nature. I'll link to it below. This has nothing to do with me, the podcast, or anything, but I've been obsessed with, they have these basically like what looks like a screensaver, but it's on YouTube. So I put it on my TV. And it's like a coffee store bookshop, and it plays jazz music in the background, and it's just so calming and relaxing. And I like to picture that you and I are there right now. I have it muted right now, so you can't hear the jazz music, but I like to think that we're there. We're sitting across from each other on chairs. We have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or some tea, and we're just chatting about business and life and the adventure and the journey and the struggles and all of those things. So consider this my virtual hug to you right now, through the mic and through the computer, through your headphones, just to say thank you for being here. And I'm so excited for this conversation today. And whether you're a first-time listener, maybe you've been listening for a while, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to share the podcast with a friend. If you have a business owner friend or someone who is looking to start their own business, or, anyone who just would benefit from a little bit of support and encouragement, I would love for you to share the podcast with them. It would really mean so much to me. We've hit quite a few big milestones that I'll be sharing about on Instagram and social media coming up shortly, but I'm just so grateful for everyone that has taken the time to share the podcast, to leave a review. So if that's you, thank you so much. I just hope that you know how much I appreciate it. And this episode topic today, it was actually inspired by my very first episode from the podcast, which I'll link below. But the very first episode was all about how I was choosing to play bigger by creating the podcast. I was also taking some pretty big leaps and branching out into very new and unfamiliar paths inside of my business. And since we just recently celebrated 100 episodes, I felt like it was important to honor the very beginning and just kind of approach the same topic, but from a new, quite honestly, more evolved perspective, right? Now I'm 100 episodes in, so I've come a long way from where I was when I was just starting off. And if you're curious to hear how it all started, I actually would encourage you to listen in. Like I said, I'll add the link in the show notes, but I hope that it's a gentle reminder that we all have to start from somewhere on our journey, right? I think for some people, you can hear 100 episodes, 8,000 podcast downloads, right? Like all of these really big numbers. But just remember, you'll hear, if you listen back to my very, very early episodes of the podcast, you may or may not notice, but while I was recording, would have to take very frequent breaks, like literally hit pause on my recording, because I was so nervous that my breathing was so short and so shallow. And so I feel like I would get a few sentences out, and then I would have to like literally pause the recording, take a deep breath, and like recenter myself and keep going. Just the nerves were so high. And it's just, the podcast has evolved so much. I had to write out an entire script in the very beginning. I feel like I was pretty good at delivering it. You probably won't notice that it was a script, but I did. I wrote, like 2-page scripts and literally like use that as how I would share on the podcast. Now I have like a few bullet points and I just kind of go off of that. But I encourage you to go back and listen in, because it's that gentle reminder that we all have to start from the beginning, right? Like no followers, no listeners, very little episodes, no clear idea of where I was going or how to do the things that I was doing. And I just hope that if you do listen in, just be reminded that like, if I can do it, so can you. And if you're looking to start a podcast, if I can do it, so can you. If you're looking to do something new in your business, I branched out into new areas. If I can do it, so can you. So I just hope that if you go back, you listen in, that it brings a little bit of inspiration into whatever your goals might be at the moment. But all of that said, I'm excited to dive into this topic today around how we can continue to play bigger in our life and how we can feel empowered to take those big leaps, both in our personal life and inside of our business. So first and foremost, I would love to invite you. You might have heard about it in one of my recent episodes or on social media, but I would love to invite you into my group coaching program, Amplify. If you haven't heard about it, or if you're on the fence or you don't really know anything about it, the thing that I am most excited about is that when I was searching for a group coaching program, I felt like none of the things that were offered really met my needs. I was seeing a lot of offers that were very time boxed, right? Like you can get a mastermind or a group coaching program, but it's only 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it might be. Also with a pretty big price tag, right? And for me, it was really important when creating this program to create something that would evolve and grow with you as a business owner without putting that time box, that pressure in it needing to all happen right now. And so inside of Amplify, I'm working with clients and we're having coaching calls, hot seat coaching calls each month. We have a community that we can all connect with that I'm actively involved in and checking in and really getting to know everyone that's inside of the community. And so that way I can be invested in their goals. What is it that they want to accomplish? Where is it that they want to grow? How can I best support them? And once you're in to the program, you're in for life. It's a one-time payment. You don't have to make large amounts of payments from like now until forever, however long you want to be in it. Once you're in, you're in. And so I would love to have you join us if that's something that you're interested in. I've also gotten a few questions around like what's better for me, group coaching or one-on-one coaching. And I would really, my honest recommendation would be to start with the group coaching. And then if you feel like you need something that's more one-on-one, that's more in the weeds with you and your business and helping you like more directly each month and more often each month, then I would suggest moving into one-on-one. Or if you've worked with a coach one-on-one before and you want that high level of support, then that might be a really great fit for you. But if you're just kind of diving in, if you've never worked with a coach before, if you're just like, I want support, but I'm not sure how much support I need, then I think Amplify would be a really great fit. So you can learn more at heykristamarie.com/amplify. And I'll link that in the show notes so that way you have that information there as well. But let's go ahead and dive in to this topic today. So playing bigger. And what does that mean? What does that look like? How can you think about this tangibly inside of your business, right? Because a lot of us, we hear this very often, right? And when this episode is going live, we're not quite still in the new year vibes, but we are still kind of in that, we're very much within that first quarter. So we are still kind of seeing a lot of things on social media, like playing bigger, making waves, doing big things, having this be your year, right? Like we're kind of inundated with this idea a lot of the time. But what does that actually look like? Like what does that tangibly mean for you in your business? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So the first things first, my first question for you is, what would it look like for you to play bigger in your life and in your business, right? And not just what would it look like, but what would it feel like? What are the feelings associated with that? Who do you identify as? That person that you see in your future that holds whatever sort of habits or success or whatever it might be. What does that actually look like, right? And how does it feel to show up as that person? And then so for some of you, that might be hard because I know for some of us, we have a hard time visualizing that kind of a thing. And I know for some people it's easier to, instead of trying to look too much into the future, it might be easier for you to reflect back on what did it look like for you during this last year or during these last 6 months? And can you identify any ways that you were hiding or playing small? Right? And so what I mean by that is doing an honest reflection, asking yourself some very real questions of, what are some habits that I built that maybe aren't beneficial or helpful for where I want to grow? What are some, I don't want to say promises that I made to myself, but what were some goals that I made or, things that I wanted to accomplish that didn't end up happening? And how can I reflect on, why did they not happen? What was it that was missing, right? Were the goals too broad? Are they just no longer in alignment with where I want to go and who I want to be anymore? Did I give myself too many goals? Was I trying to put too much on my plate? And then that's why I wasn't able to accomplish it and cross them off my list, right? Like really reflecting on what has this past 6 months, this past year, what has it looked like? And what are some ways that you were hiding or playing small in your business, right? Like what are some ways where you can kind of gently understand or acknowledge that there were ways that maybe you didn't show up, like you actually physically weren't visible in your business, right? Like maybe you completely went off of social media. Maybe you completely ghosted your email list. Maybe you completely just took actions that allowed you to just play safely behind the scenes instead of really showing up in ways that would grow and evolve your business. Right? And figuring out what were some of those things, how was I doing that in the last year, in the last 6 months? And if you are a person that is more visual, you might be able to do both. Maybe you can reflect on the last 6 months, the last year, and also look ahead into what would it feel like for you to truly play bigger, right? Like what would it mean for you to be very visible and active and alive in your business? What would that look like and feel like for you? So I think that's the first thing I always want to talk about, because reflection and looking back at where we are or where we have been is so crucial if we're going to make any changes moving forward. Because truthfully, we could set all these really amazing goals for the next year, for the next 3 months, the next 6 months, whatever. We could write down some really incredible things that we want to accomplish. But if we're setting those goals using the same parameters that we set our goals last year, and if we didn't accomplish those goals last year, then are we really setting ourselves up for success for these new goals, right? Like we have to be able to reflect and get an honest understanding of where we are, where we're starting from, what worked, what didn't work, what can we change, what can we explore and do differently. We have to be able to reflect before we can move forward. So first things first, I think reflection is like the number one thing that I always do. Anytime I'm thinking about setting goals, anytime I'm thinking about like really wanting to make big change in my business, first things first, reflection and visualization into the future. Second thing is really getting honest with yourself around what type of support do you currently have around you that will help you to step out of your comfort zone and start to play bigger. Because if you've been in business longer than a month or a couple of months, you know that taking these leaps, taking chances on anything in your business is super scary and very uncomfortable a lot of the time. And as much as our friends and family and just like people in our close circle, as much as they want to support us, they often won't quite understand what it takes to run a small business, right? Like it requires such a different type of mindset and way of looking at life. And it requires honestly a deeper sense and knowing of self, because we are our own boss. We have to regulate a lot of things. And so it requires a lot of inner work in order to grow a successful business. So asking yourself, what type of support do I have in my current community that will really help create a safe space where I can experiment with things and try things out and get support and encouragement and also clarity and understanding around what might be the next best thing for me to do, while also giving me the safety of knowing that I can experiment and try things out and not feel like the weight of everything is on my shoulders, right? And so if you have been looking for a community, I would love, again, to invite you into Amplify. I think this would be a great space for you to have that support. But regardless of whatever that might be, maybe you have, maybe you do listen to a lot of podcasts currently. Maybe you follow some people on YouTube. Maybe you follow some people on Instagram. All of that is great, but really getting clear on how can I bring that community even closer? What type of people can I bring into my close inner circle that will really help me to do the things that I want to do and feel safe that I can explore, to step out of my comfort zone and try new things? So support, I think, is so important. So that's of course, it's the second thing. And then the next thing is really taking an honest look at your goals and asking yourself, like, are these doable? Or am I putting so much on my, like, quote unquote, like, plate that I'm overwhelmed, actually, right? Like, there's no way I'll be able to do these things. And a lot of the times when my clients start to work with me, they're usually coming from a place of having too much on their plate, putting too much pressure on themselves, creating unrealistic deadlines, getting really hard on themselves and frustrated with themselves when they don't hit these unrealistic goals. And so a lot of the times our work starts with recognizing that, right? Like recognizing that, of course, you haven't been able to hit these unrealistic goals. And of course, you're feeling frustrated and a lack of confidence in your business because you've been holding yourself to the standard that's just impossible. And so it's hard to play bigger, to step out of our comfort zone and to do something that feels scary if we don't already feel safe in our business. And I want to let that sink in for a minute, right? Because this is something that's it makes such an impact, but it sounds so simple. You will struggle to play bigger and to embrace fear and embrace change and try something new in your business if you don't already feel safe in your business. And some of the reasons why you may not feel safe is what we just talked about, right? You don't have the confidence because you've been overwhelming yourself with unrealistic goals, deadlines, tasks, projects. And so really asking yourself, like, and this might require additional support. I will honestly say that for me, I had a hard time seeing that this was a problem for me until I started working with a coach. Just being completely honest with you, because anytime I listen to something about goal setting realistic goals, right? Like I never really understood the really tangible steps of like how to fix the way that I was goal setting. So like I would tweak my goals, but like the mindset wouldn't change. And so like undoubtedly like the things that I was putting as my goals were still too much and still too lofty. And then when I wouldn't accomplish it, again, it would just kind of spiral down into what that meant about me. I was a failure and I wasn't, not capable of making money and being successful and all those things. So just know that it might take reaching out for support, right? And that's where the second thing, right? This is where support really is going to come into play. Having someone who can take an honest look at where you are, what you're doing, and how you can get to where you want to go, right? Sometimes we miss what's right in front of us in our business. But I think the first step is just understanding that you might be putting too much on your plate. You might be creating really unrealistic deadlines, and you might be getting really down on yourself and frustrated with yourself, which is leading to more limiting beliefs and lack of confidence in yourself. So it's really important to at least recognize that and start to understand that so that you can make the shifts that you need to make in order to feel safe where you are. So that way you can step out of your comfort zone and do those harder things, play bigger, be more visible, and get out into your community. Hey there, it's Krista here. If you're a creative business owner that wants to feel more confident in your skills and your ability to create a thriving business, I'd love to invite you to join me for my newest 30-day challenge called the Confident Creative. It's completely free, and inside the Confident Creative Challenge, I'm helping you implement the strategies that will not only help you feel more confident as a creative business owner, but I'm also giving you access into the exact tools that I use to bring in more joy and money to my growing business every day. At the end of the day, our confidence really does affect how much our business can grow. We have to deeply believe in ourselves and feel gratitude for where we are right now if we want to take things to the next level. But oftentimes our doubts, our fears, our worries, our insecurities, all of these things can sometimes take over in our mindset and really keep us playing small. So if you're ready to join me inside the challenge, head on over to heykristamarie.com/challenge. And as soon as you join, you'll get immediate access to the challenge information, the guided PDF workbook, the daily journal prompts, and a beautiful daily checklist to help you track your results. There's honestly no better time to join me than right now. So if you're ready to gain massive clarity, unleash your inner confidence to create that life and business that you're proud of, I can't wait to see you inside the challenge. So again, that's heykristamarie.com/challenge, and I can't wait to see you inside. Lastly, this I actually learned, there's a book called Playing Big. I'm actually looking at it right now on my bookshelf. It's by Tara Moore. And it's funny, Tara Moore actually is located in San Francisco, we're practically neighbors. We're not actually neighbors, but we're practically neighbors. And I didn't realize that when I bought the book, but reading that book was very beneficial for me. I'll link it in the show notes. And she really talks about what it takes to play big. And so if this is a topic that you want to learn more about, I highly recommend reading her book. She also has programs and coaching programs. If you're a coach and you're looking to use the playing big model for yourself and for your clients, she has programs. I'm actually have been involved in 2 of them. I'm currently retaking one of them because you get lifetime access. So I'm retaking one of them now, and it's been amazing to go through all of the curriculum again. But this last topic is not just to promote that book. This last topic is to say that while I was reading that book, something that she talks about is identifying your inner critic. And I've done a lot of personal development. I've done a lot of mindset work. I've done a lot of inner growth things. I'm pretty familiar with all of that. But this was a way of approaching it that I hadn't really done before. And it was identifying your inner critic is that person inside of your head that's constantly kind of chirping at you to tell you all the things you're doing wrong, why you're a failure, why nobody likes you, why you shouldn't step out and play big, all of the fears that you have, they're like amplifying them in your head, right? Like your inner critic is that person. And I've always known, right, we're all aware that that voice exists in our head, but I'd never identified it in the way that she talked about doing. So she really talks about naming your inner critic and separating it from yourself. And that was a really big shift for me because up until that point, that voice in my head was a part of me, right? So anytime that voice would come up, it was hard for me to kind of push it aside or to move away from it or separate myself from it because I felt like it was literally a part of me. Like it was the fearful part of me. It was the part of me that held all of my lack of confidence. It was the part of me that held all of my fears. Like it was this part of me that I couldn't detach myself from. But she talks about literally identifying it, naming it, and learning to separate it from yourself, right? So I've talked about this in a previous episode whenever I talk about inner critics, but my inner critic, I named her Frumpy Fiona. And she really talks about like getting like, what did they look like? You know, she like really helps you get in the weeds of like separating it. So you don't just name it, you really identify who is this person? What does she look like? What are her intentions? Why is she here, right? Like there's a whole list of things. And so Frumpy Fiona for me is a girl who wants to eat all of the comfort food, lay on the couch in her blanket and hide from everybody, right? Like that is who she is. And she's there because she wants to keep me safe and she wants to make sure that I don't put myself in situations where, you know, it could be emotionally like depleting, or, like she's there to, ultimately she's trying to help me. But at the end of the day, her chirping, her like telling me that I'm not good enough, her telling me that I need to, be more, do more, like none of that is actually beneficial for my growth. And so anytime she starts to really make her voice louder and louder, I've learned to mentally just like in my head, write her a little letter, or like send her a voice note, if you will. That's just like, hey, I see you. I know that your intentions are good. I know that you're here to help me. I know that you want to keep me safe, but I've got this. Like, I've got this, and I've got the support that I need. I've got the community that I need. I feel safe where I am. I feel, empowered to take this step and do this thing. And so you learn to start embracing that inner critic and learning to live with them. And by building these tactics and habits for you to kind of overcome when their voice gets really loud. And so that's something that I invite you to do. If you take one thing away from this episode today, I would love for you to do that. It's really fun. It's fun to name them and describe them and do the whole exercise. I had a really fun time doing it. And so just understanding that at the end of the day, right, that our inner critic is there, but we get to choose and decide how we want to show up. We get to choose what voice we listen to. Is it their voice or is it our voice? And so those are the 4 things I really wanted to cover. And so first and foremost, really reflecting and looking forward into where you want to go and how you might have been playing small and how you'd like to play bigger in the future and what that would look like. And secondly, the support that you have around you to help you feel safe and feel secure that you have what you need to be able to embrace that fear and take more risks and take chances. Number 3, really taking an honest look at what you have on your plate and your goals, and recognizing if you've been way too hard on yourself and expecting way too much. And then lastly, really identifying that inner critic and starting to separate it from the voice in ourselves, the voice that's actually helping us grow, that's actually helping us get to where we want to go, right? Separating those two and being grateful that you have both of those voices there to help keep you feeling safe and feeling protected. So I hope that this was helpful. I just want you to remember that in every stage of our life, no matter what season you're in, it's so important that we remember that ultimately we were made for more. And that dream that you hold in your heart, the one that feels really unreachable or unattainable, the idea that might seem really impossible, but that like won't go away and continues to take up space in your heart, this is your calling. And if it's your calling, this is what you were made to do, right? Like you were made to do more with it. And the honest truth right here, every single day that we wake up is a blessing, right? The fact that we get to show up and experience life for another day is something that so often we take for granted. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So if we're waiting to follow our dreams, if we're waiting to show up, if we're waiting to play bigger, if we're waiting for permission from someone to really show up for ourselves, our life, and our business, we're not guaranteed that that day will come. And so my invitation for you today is just, I hope that you feel inspired and I hope you feel empowered to look into just one area of your life, to see where you might have been playing small and decide that you're ready to take action, to step outside of your comfort zone and to play bigger. And whether that's learning to live with and to love your inner critic, whether it's saying no to tasks and goals that no longer serve you, or maybe reaching out to get the support that you need in your business, whatever it is, just know that I'm just so grateful and I'm so thankful that I get to be a part of this new journey with you. And I'm always here to support you along the way, however I can. I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram. Share with me, what's the thing that you're going to do today? What invitation will you take me up on? What's one way, one part of your life that you're going to show up and start playing bigger? I would love to celebrate you. You can find me on Instagram at Hey Krista Marie. Send me a DM. I love getting messages from listeners. Like, I hope you know how much I appreciate it and how much it means to me. And I love getting to pour into you more directly in a platform, right, on Instagram, where it's actually so intimate and I can get to know you and your business and everything that you're doing. So please connect with me there. And in the meantime, I will chat with you in the next episode. One last thing before you go. I'd absolutely love it if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you've already left a review, I'd love for you to share this episode with your business bestie. I love getting to shout out my listeners on the show, and the more listeners that we have, the more that I can help others create a thriving and sustainable business too. Thank you so much again for being a part of this community, and I can't wait to hear your takeaways from today's episode.